Welcome to Fear and Greed, the week ahead. I'm Sean Aylmer, and as always, I'm joined by economist Stephen Koukoulas. You'll find him at thekouk.com, THEKOUK.com, and on Twitter using the handle thekouk. Stephen, good morning.
Good morning and a happy new financial year to everybody too.
Yes, we've got quite a remarkable last financial year. More rate rises last financial year than ever before.
That's right. Yes, we had one virtually every month. Obviously, the bank doesn't meet in January, so there was no move then. And they paused in April. But I think for every other month, so for 10 of the 12 months, they hiked rates.
Pretty incredible. Now, just very quickly, we'll talk about last week, but this week we've got the Reserve Bank meeting tomorrow, so that's what we're interested in. Those inflation numbers last week were kind of interesting, though.
They were. They undershot everybody's expectations. They came in at an annual rate of 5.6%. The market consensus, I think, was around about 6.1%. So it came in well below expectations. That was after the previous month was above expectations. So a couple of things there. One, it highlights the volatility in monthly inflation numbers. Petrol prices going up and down. I think we all noticed that when we fill up our car. So that has a big impact on month CPI. But the important thing is that the momentum in inflation is clearly down. In December last year, inflation was running at 8.4%. That was that really painful cost of living pressure. Now down to 5.6%, so well above the RBA's target range. But it's something that I think the RBA would be, first of all, pleased to see. But given that the last board meeting was a line ball decision to hike, and the reason they did hike was partly wages, partly that inflation shock that we saw last month. So I think on balance, they're probably on hold, but it is a line ball call.
Okay, so they're meeting tomorrow. What is it that would push rates higher? Is it wages that's the big problem or the big concern for the Reserve Bank Board?
Yeah, well, we haven't had any fresh news on wages in the last month. So in a sense, maybe there's a case to wait until we get the next labour force numbers as well as the next wages data. And they're not out for another month, of course. The other things that have occurred which might tilt them in that direction, and of course we'll see this in data today, that we've got the house price index coming out from CoreLogic, and that will show a jump in house prices. And that's something, not that the RBA target house prices, but there is a wealth effect when house prices go up. We Australians tend to feel wealthier. We tend to spend more when that's the case. And the RBA would probably want to lean against this rebound in house prices if, in fact, that's what we're seeing. And also last week we had a retail sales number, which, while I don't think, the month-to-month volatility in retail sales is a bit like the inflation numbers. You can get these choppy results, but it was above expectations. We had a 0.7% rise in the month of May, and that's sort of suggesting that maybe that cooling in the economy that's evident in a range of indicators is not quite as severe as we were thinking in terms of retail and consumer spending.
Yeah, it's very hard to get your head around, well, maybe not for you, but for me, it's very hard to kind of work out exactly what's going on right now.
Oh, it's hard for me too, because we're getting this choppy news. And again, it's one of the joys in economics is that we do get a high frequency run of data on housing, on building approvals, retail spending, consumer sentiment, CapEx, business investment, a myriad of things go on. And rarely do they all point in the one direction. They're rarely all super strong or all super weak. And I guess that's the interpretation of these numbers, which is the tricky thing for us humble economists, but also for the Reserve Bank when they're sitting down. They're mere mortals too, don't forget. They've got lots of smart economists there, some really fantastic economists. But they look at these numbers and they see one up, one down, one up, one down, and they think, well, what do we do when we've already hiked 400 basis points? So yes, it is hard to get a unambiguous read on just where the economy is.
And I suppose then all points of data become more interesting. I mean, job ads this week, for example, will be interesting because we know that the Reserve Bank wants some of the heat to come out of the market.
Oh, indeed. And the Deputy Governor, I think we spoke of this last week, Deputy Governor Michelle Bullock mentioned that one of the ways in which they'll be confident that inflation's back to that 2 to 3% target range is if wages growth is well contained. And at the moment, the RBA is a little concerned about the rate of wages growth with the unemployment rate below 4%. And in fact, she was suggesting that we probably need an unemployment rate around about 4.5% before we can be sure that wages growth will not feed into inflation. So job ads, yes, we in a sense, we need to see them slowing down, and I think they will. We do know the economy is slowing more broadly. We saw the Bureau of Stats job vacancy series last week down again, so they're down 10% from, albeit an absolutely super strong level. But, the cards are falling into line that maybe, just maybe, we're getting this turning point in the labour market, and some of these fears of unwelcome and unsustainable increases in wages will not be there simply because the labour market's starting to soften in line with the softening in the economy more broadly.
Stephen, enjoy a very busy week.
It'll be a great week, Sean. I can't wait for it. Thank you.
That's economist Stephen Koukoulas, better known as The Kook. You can find him at thekook.com and follow him on Twitter using the handle The Kook. I'm Sean Aylmer, and this is Fear and Greed, the week ahead.